YouTube.
Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the wasmCloud community meeting for Wednesday, June the 1st, almost halfway through the year. That's pretty wild. We actually have a new member in the call today. Richard, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Yes. Hello, I'm Richard. I work at Huawei, and I was on the previous team, and now I'm being transferred to the WASM team. And I had my first exposure to WASM when I was working on Holochain, and ever since I got that experience, I've just been interested with how the technology works and how portable it is. And being in the Rust space, that kind of exposes you to that. And with wasmCloud coming up, I thought the technology would be very, very interesting for the type of stuff that I'm interested in and the type of stuff that I'm looking to do in the future. So that is me.
Awesome. Thank you for doing an intro. We're happy to have you here. All right. Well, I think that's all the new members that we have on the call today. So we'll hop right into demos. I regret to inform you that Jordan was going to do a very cool demo today, but he is, I believe, on mobile and no internet. Is that right, Jordan?
I am internetless.
Yep. So, basically a horror story in the modern society, but I do have a demo prep, so you won't go completely demo-less. So let's see, last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about how we are adding TinyGo support for wasmCloud for our actors. And one of the things that I just wanted to show today, this is kind of a multifaceted demo, so I'm gonna show a few things, but we adapted one of our examples, not just the Hello World example, but to show you a full example of getting a request to an actor and then making a request of a capability provider. We took our kind of classic KV counter example that's in Rust, where receives an HTTP request and then increments a counter and a key value store. And we ported that to TinyGo. So we basically just took the equivalent functionality and wrote that in TinyGo. So it still is very simple. The reduced boilerplate, the low boilerplate experience that Rust gives you, where we are getting an HTTP request, returning an HTTP response. All we're really doing here is a little bit of processing to take the path of the request, get a new key value sender, and then increment that in the key value store. And then at the end of the day, we return kind of a JSON formatted counter. Now, what I did is I set this up, got some things running in wasmCloud. So I've got the wasmCloud dashboard running locally, our KV counter, TinyGo, HTTP server, Redis key value, all that stuff. And we actually have this endpoint set up. I'll go ahead and ping it in the chat if anybody wants to also hit that endpoint. Now you'll notice that this is not running on my local host. It's some IP address out somewhere else. Yeah, I actually, if people could hit it, it's pretty fun because it's just going to go up. But one thing I wanted to show is I'm actually not running anything on my local machine other than a wasmCloud dashboard to look at this. What I have is the HTTP server capability provider that's running on a VM in GCP. That's where this IP address is actually coming from. You can see everybody's actually, oh God, everybody's actually using it and hitting the counter. And I just have that, open to the internet, at least for the duration of this call. And then I also have another host that's running our key value counter, TinyGo, and Redis. And you can see that the device is an iPad and the location is behind you. So this is not actually really running a wasmCloud host. It's using Evan's Gitpod template, but it has support for that in Safari. I just thought that was cool. So the other facet of this demo that I wanted to show off is the additional support for the TinyGo language in the Gitpod template. So Evan Matiza was in here. He has really contributed an awesome project by setting us up with a template for Gitpod that includes all kinds of things. It includes, I guess it's kind of hard to see here, but the wasmCloud dashboard, Nats, Redis running. It's basically the Docker Compose from our examples repo. And it now, in addition to having support for building Rust actors and working on the host, it also has the, let's see, TinyGo. We go to the TinyGo actor and we build it. Oh darn! And we don't have it already built, and we build it. It has a little TinyGo toolchain in here. So Evan was super responsive for this. We reached out to him and said, hey, we added additional language support. Can you add that into the Gitpod? So this continues to be a great way to kind of get up and running with wasmCloud without a development environment. Counter's going up pretty steadily now. Somebody's got it in a loop or something. But that also works on like a tablet, which is kind of cool because it's all running in like a cloud development environment. Yeah, so just wanted to show a little bit more of an in-depth example with TinyGo, and show off some of the work that Evan put in for the Gitpod. Anybody have any questions about that, or maybe if you're looking to, let's see, I'll go ahead and put a link to the Gitpod in the chat just in case you're looking to play with it. All right, great. Well, that kind of concludes what I had for the demo. Now I have two quick things that I wanted to announce from like a general. Oh, Liam, you have a demo.
I've got a shirt.
That's right.
Do I have sharing privileges, Brooks?
You do.
He was on the other foot. My. All right, so hopefully you guys can see a tab. Is that correct?
Yep. It looks like you were for looping my.
Oh. Wrong tab. Now, how about that?
Yeah.
Damn it! Shared my whole screen. All right. Well, that's what happens. Yes, I was guilty as charged, Brooks. Okay, so I wanted to just invite everybody to check out labs.cosmonic.com. We have pulled together what we hope is a really helpful walkthrough of both WebAssembly as well as wasmCloud with some new training and things like that on here. So you can simply come in, and Jordan has spent a ton of time helping pull these together, and Cosmonic has elected to sponsor these because this all now runs in a live containerized environment here that spins up dynamically in the background. So as you get into the classes, you'll find that there is some emerging video, some emerging content, and as we continue to update wasmCloud, our hope is that we can continue to keep this up to date with new examples. So hopefully we'll pull together some Go training to highlight the new support for TinyGo in wasmCloud and give you some hands-on experience. I would love if, as folks get into this, if they can start to give us some feedback on how things are working here. Well, that's hilarious. Wash not found. Well,
you're not following the instructions there, Liam. You got to use bin.
Wash isn't on that pod.
Wash is not on that pod. Well, there we go. Well, I think if you follow the instructions, you'll have better luck than I will. But as we get into this, we'd love to get any feedback that you might have on the experience and how well it onboards you. If you have any ideas, we'd love to hear that as well, so that we can continue to try to make this a really helpful set of tutorials. And as you get further into the lessons, you'll sort of find that as you get into the lessons, you can even have multiple tabs up here that include the washboard to make it really easy. So just like the Gitpod experience, this should be very similar to that, but for training and onboarding. Anybody have any questions? All right, thank you, Brooks.
No, not for nothing, but you forgot to add that all the APIs in the background are running in wasmCloud, Liam.
I did totally forget to add that, Jordan. Thank you. Yes, but Jordan pulled all that together, and it, of course, is running on wasmCloud, which is amazing.
We do love to drink our own champagne here. That's for sure. I just wanted to add, I guess, one more comment. So not quite a question, but the on labs.cosmonic, there is a wasmCloud track. The WebAssembly track is not wasmCloud specific. It's not Rust specific. It is a general WebAssembly track, all things about Wasm. So it's a great resource for anyone. It lightly follows like a similar course to the WebAssembly Definitive Guide by Brian Sletton. It's very similar to that, talking about modules and tables and memory, and it's a little more low-level WASM, but great if you've only ever used WASM as a compilation target, as a walkthrough. Alrighty. Well, I made a bad assumption earlier, so I will ask: does anybody else have any demos or something they want to show off about wasmCloud? Yeah, that's good. We had two pretty good demos. That's a pretty good day. So I do have two things that I wanted to bring up just for a general WebAssembly community and for a wasmCloud community. One thing that's come up in the WebAssembly community somewhat recently was wasm.builders, or wasm builders, however exactly you say it. It's a great place for people to go and collaborate on all things WebAssembly. People are posting blog posts here. There are little examples that they're writing. And I just wanted to point out that now that we're posting blogs on wasmcloud.com, this is also a place where we're going to be posting some of our content. And, I'm not suggesting from the outset that you go and sign up for another website, but this is a place that a lot of people have come onto in the WebAssembly community. And it's a pretty good or pretty promising place for a central location for a general WebAssembly community on the server side. So if you're on here, keep an eye out for our blog posts and all the cool things that everyone else is doing. Additionally, one thing that I will tease but not show all of it, we are going to be adding a new blog onto our website this week. It is about TinyGo and written by our own Kevin Hoffman. Kevin, do you have any comments or want to say anything about this one?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's basically just a walkthrough of using wash new to create a new actor template, and then from there just modifying it to go through essentially the KV counter sample that you showed earlier. So.
Awesome. Yeah, we're trying to continue to publish content like this, especially, many of you who are in this call are active in our community Slack and are, attending these calls on a semi-weekly, semi-frequent, sometimes weekly basis. So, getting some content out there for the broader community that may not join Slack is really important to us. Alrighty, that is what I had for general WebAssembly community announcements. I have been checking pretty much every day for when Taylor and my talk will go up on YouTube, on the CNCF YouTube. It should be uploaded here. I think by June 6th was the date that they said it would be uploaded by. So we should have that that public YouTube link ready for you pretty soon. But does anyone else have anything from the broader WebAssembly community, any wasmCloud callouts that they'd like to put out there, or any issues in particular that you want to talk about? All right. Well, that is Liam. Do you have a thing?
Only to mention Kevin's thing. Kevin's community callouts.
Yeah, sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin's speaking this week at Craft Conference.
Oh yeah. I can't find the do you have a link to that talk, Kevin?
I might be able to find it. Just give me a few seconds.
It's in chat.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah, thank you, Liam. So Kevin is going to be talking, I believe this is tomorrow at 9 Eastern time. I can, what time is it Central European, Kevin?
Yeah, Central European, I think it's 2:45 my current time. So I'm so messed up from time zones, I have no idea when anything is. So
I put it on my calendar as soon as you mentioned it. I have it as 8:55 to 9:55 a.m. Eastern time.
okay.
So perfect timing for everybody. Get up, you have your nice little cup of coffee, you listen to Kevin's soothing voice talking about WebAssembly and how it's going to change your lives. Is this online, like kind of for free? Can you just join the conference, or is this something you need to register for and you can catch it later?
I think you have to register. I know they have they're using an app called Hopin that is sort of the virtual venue, and that's where they have they have virtual stages and things like that. But I'm pretty sure you need some kind of registration code to get into the app.
Okay. Well, if anybody's registered for CraftConf, definitely don't miss this. And if not, we'll have as soon as it's published on YouTube or whatever they do after the event, we'll of course announce it here, put it in Slack, all the things. Well, break a leg during your talk and demo tomorrow, Kevin.
Yeah, this one is predominantly just a WebAssembly talk, and then towards the end, when I talk about how every WebAssembly module needs a decent runtime, that's when I start comparing runtimes and talk about wasmCloud specifically.
Very nice. It's always nice to, I'm interested to see how many people, at CraftConf have heard of WebAssembly, who's coming to the talk like totally new, or like has seen it start to make like a bigger splash in cloud native, and they're like, okay, seems like a really big deal. What's going on?
Yeah. I've spoken to a couple of the speakers here so far, and we're all asking each other what our talks are about, and as soon as I say mine is about WebAssembly, they're like, am I supposed to know what that is? So it's still kind of a what do you call it, nascent technology.
Do you have a WebAssembly neither web nor assembly slide in there?
Not a full slide, but one of the bullets is, yeah, neither web nor assembly. I think there's some kind of community requirement that says every time you give a talk on WebAssembly, you're supposed to use that line. I think they kick us out of the community if we don't.
It's the Solomon Hike slide is the one you have to show. That
Yeah.
you wouldn't have created.
Yeah,
that.
that's the one. The other requirement.
I
But
don't
yeah,
even
in
have
case
that.
anyone ever wants slides, that neither web nor assembly slide, we don't mind if people steal that slide.
I got to go find the Solomon Hikes quote because that's not even in my deck. Damn.
Yeah, you gotta have this one.
Yeah, I was so worried about my demos, I didn't put that one in there.
Oops. Like, yeah, that's a fun one. Let's see. Yeah, not wasm. Well, I think that's all that I had. Seems like a lot of the community stuff is good. So we can just go ahead and but it's a quick call. We can close up the call and then just continue to hang out.
Just one
Thanks,
quick
everyone.
thing.
Oh yeah.
I made an issue on kind of creating that config file that we were talking about yesterday, Brooks.
Yeah.
I can link it in the Zoom. So I made this and started writing it up, but this will probably touch a lot of people with WASM if we end up wasmCloud if we end up going with it. So please take a look at this and weigh in on like what you want out of a config file, what if you preferences on YAML, TOML, and whatnot, so we can kind of have some collaboration around that, because I don't want to go and try and make a spec for a file. Everyone hates it. So let me know what you think and feel free to weigh in there.
Yeah, thank you for writing this up, Matt. This stemmed from our discussion here. Yeah, so there was an issue here on Wash about the desire to be able to do like a Wash build command that uses the language toolchain to build your actor. Pretty much the same thing that the makefile does today, but just all contained within our own tooling. And the eventual goal would be to keep it so that once you have Wash, you have everything that you need to do the wasmCloud development. You don't have to install JQ or any of the like make specific stuff. And this is all related to if we have a let's see, I won't put any words in your mouth, Matt, but this is great to have just like general wasmCloud configuration, maybe combining some of those Wash flags on the command line to and like the host config definition that we use for a wasmCloud host, like connecting to NATs and things like that. So that would be great.
Yeah. The main thing is pretty much getting rid of make is kind of the main goal, I guess, initially, and then kind of looking at the other stuff. So right now we have the project's make file, which is more or less the configuration file. It has like the actor's name and the different capability providers and everything. So turning that into a actual configuration file, and then turning the make file that we have is kind of like a compiler more or less right now into something that's actually built into Wash that does that work for us. So we're kind of removing our dependency on make. But main thing I wanted to get feedback on is like the configuration file, what you'd like to see in there, and if you have any particular preferences on that.
Now, I know that this is one question that I asked, and I just don't really know enough about all of the different configuration files for various languages. I think in Rust, like in cargo.toml, you can do like arbitrary TOML entries, like for metadata or tags or something like that, annotations, one of those things. And I'm pretty sure you can do the same thing in like a package.json for eventually using like an assembly script support. But can you do that with a Go mod? Like, is there?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, Go mod is not extensible, and I don't know offhand, but it feels like there might be some catch-22 type problems by putting wasmCloud stuff inside the build artifact and then having wasmCloud actually do the building. So yeah, I feel like there's probably a lot we can leverage by maybe having a single TOML file, like a netlify TOML or whatever, and then going from there. one other thing I was thinking of now that I just saw this, this is the first time I've seen this request, is that with this TOML in place, you might even be able to do to assume a bunch of reasonable defaults when you're using other wash commands. So like if you did wash cuddle start and then hit enter, you could pull the info from the nearest wasmCloud.toml file and use that to start the actor.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of overlap this will have, the wasmCloud config, with the wash context feature, like where we have those JSON files that has pretty much for the control commands, like all the NATS connection information and stuff stored in the wash directory. We may be able to put all of that into a wasmCloud config file instead of trying to manage that separately. That might make it a little simpler.
I think those are kind of they do two separate things. One is config for a host and one is config for like building in a developer. So I still think they'll exist separately. Trying to combine them with just like when you look at them like superficially, they look very similar, but when you actually see what their purpose is, they're completely different. So I think it's totally fine to have two different files there.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was just about to make, which is there are two different concerns. There's the need to configure a host, and then there's the need to configure various aspects of an actor at build time or a provider at build time and things like that. So yeah, like Taylor said, feels like we really do want to have two different ways of configuring them and to not conflate those two concerns.
Yeah, very true. Well, this is awesome. Thank you for grabbing me, Matt, before I stop the recording. There are some other really interesting proposals here in WASH now that you might also be, if you're interested in that one, you may also be interested in things like interactive WASH claims signed to make that a little bit easier. We have some notion of improving the initial developer experience with like a WASH install. My initial thought here was that having, you download or install WASH for your platform, you run WASH install, and then that will grab NATS for you. It'll grab the release of the OTP host. And then, so pretty much you download WASH for your platform, and then that can deal with downloading the rest of your dependencies. I haven't gotten a chance to respond yet, but I actually really like Matt's proposal here too, to have like a curl script, or, you curl a public script and pipe it into SH, and then that ends up downloading everything for you. I think I have like a little bit of PTSD from managing a large bash script. So as long as that can be simple, I like that, because, curl or wget or what have you would just make it really easy for anybody to install. As long as that works on Windows. Can you curl or wget in PowerShell?
There's an alias, but it's not the bestest. There's an easy way to do it though.
Wait a second.
There's a couple of ways you can do it. I think probably the easiest way is to just use WSL because nobody wants to use regular Windows anyway. You can use WSL. There is a way to do it in PowerShell, but the syntax is a little bit different. But yeah, it's possible.
I forgot about this. You can actually use
the alias is there.
tar. Yeah,
it's the most simple of use cases. It's the same, but anytime you try to do something more complex, then you start to run into the differences.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I would also point out here. So this is Brooks has really been driving this forward, but we're just trying to pay down some of the DevX tech debt that we've been accumulating over the past few months with some of these features. So if you're a wasmCloud user, we really want to get your feedback and things as we start to roll these out, because this is meant to make everything easier. All of us who are core maintainers are using wasmCloud as well. Like, we're not just writing the code, we're also using the code for the stuff we're doing at Cosmonic. And so we want these things just as much as everybody. But if we base it purely on what we're doing, I know we're going to miss edge cases here. So please comment on those things if there's like specific things you have in mind, or try them out as we start releasing them, and give us the feedback that you have so that we can make sure this is a really nice tool for everyone.
Yeah, I think the most recent improvement that we made here, I came back into our little install script and tried to pare it down as much as possible, make this as simple. You know, adding the TinyGo and the Rust links, now that there's two different paths through the documentation. You know, taking Rust or TinyGo for all the creating an actor parts, and so I don't know why that happens. Keeping it simple for installing Wash, you know, an easy way to get Nats, and then, you know, a 3-line command for installing and unpacking wasmCloud. Really, you know, this reduces the friction for the initial install, but we want to make this as clean and crisp as possible.
Brooks, I really like the GitHub pipeline stuff that you added. I thought that was super helpful, so that when you create a new project, it's automatically pairing up a pipeline for you on the backside. And I think continuing to, you know, sand down those edges is super powerful.
Yeah, if you all haven't actually played with that yet, that's a really fun one to do for the first time. The blog on the integrated GitHub Actions. These are included for our TinyGo templates, our TinyGo template as well. So, you know, this will work for, this guide is Rust specific, but it works well for TinyGo as well. But the experience of doing this for the first time, like pushing a tag to your GitHub repo and then having it automatically build, test, sign, and then release an actor to a public OCI registry on GitHub packages is super nice. And this is something that we're, you know, we push all of our first party capability providers and examples to an Azure container registry. And that was the best option at the time. This is something that we are definitely going to look at, if only to make it so that it's easy to find new releases of packages. But it's still a little bit more to be proven there. But this actually does work for actors and capability providers now with Wash 11. Janitha, you just sent the invoke web request thing, and this always just like, and PowerShell is really powerful, right? It's a really powerful scripting language. I'm not used to it, and that is why. But it always just like numbs my brain a little bit when I come and try to figure out how to use utility. It's a lot of stuff. I just don't know PowerShell. That's probably the reason. But
the control spacebar is, sorry.
Sorry, Janitha, I force muted you there.
Sorry, I just have my internet's dodgy and it seems to be everywhere, or at least my East Coast meetings I had this morning was also bad. I was just saying the control spacebar actually seems to work reasonably well, but yeah, the errors and all that sort of stuff. But to everybody's point, I am on WSL for most of the time on Linux.
Yeah, I was just going to add a quick comment there, which is that pretty much the only way to survive PowerShell is through autocomplete.
I usually go back on my Windows machine every once in a while and just like download the host and run it just to make sure everything is all, you know, we test it in our CI, but it's just nice to have Windows support as well.
I don't know that anybody's actually had the pleasure of using VMS at any point in time, but that is surprisingly consistent, which is, I think PowerShell tries to do that, but not necessarily very well. Old school mainframes for power systems.
I played with VMS back in the day.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Alrighty, well, great discussion. I don't want to cut this off if there's anything else that we want to talk about.
Actually, I have a question. Kevin, so looking at WADM again, I think something that I've never actually really got through my thick head is that you're actually trying to propose CQRS-ES. And I started playing around with a tool called Commanded, which does the event streaming and CQRS separation. I was wondering whether that was exactly what you're thinking of, or were you thinking of something completely different and I'm completely off the wrong track?
Yeah, so Commanded is a wonderful library. And if I was going to build something where I'm doing pure event sourcing, then Commanded is probably what I would end up using. The idea that I had in mind for WADM is a little less pure because there are a number of times where the WADM would need to reach out to a quote unquote impure source, things like reading from the system clock and, other things where the formality of pure event sourcing would sort of get in the way. So I would describe WADM as event driven rather than like pure event sourcing. So probably not a full CQRS ES type implementation, but similarly inspired. I'm hoping that when I get back from Budapest that I'll be able to spend a little bit of time on it and move it a little bit further, and then hopefully, get some of the stuff that's currently in my head out onto code so that other people can contribute to it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's a good blog. I read that one.
I am muted. This was the one, was that Stuart? Hey, welcome back. It's been a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
we like gnats.
Yeah, we do. And that's a really interesting blog post. It's well written and it's a great read.
Yeah, I read part 1. So looks like this one just dropped recently. I'll have to go check this one out.
All right. Well, that was a pretty good community call. Thank you all for coming. I'll stop the recording and then we can just continue to hang out. See you next week.